You didn't do the countdown though. I
Oh,
wasn't ready.
I'm so used to counting down, I guess. So I was like counting down into the show. But anyway, welcome in to the Instant Classic Wrestling Podcast, the podcast that is always an instant classic. I messed that up. What is it? What's this?
It's
What?
the only podcast that is always, and I mean always, and it's the
Yeah, that's
classic.
right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. I just want to make sure everybody out there in the world remembered, you know. But anyway, um, I want to talk a little bit about the. I mean, I guess this is technically spring cleaning for WWE. Kind of happened under a different effect, I guess. Um, but we got a huge batch of releases that came out yesterday. We were supposed to do the video yesterday, but somebody, wrong way, somebody, um, messed things up. So, but anyway,
I
with
didn't
that,
mess anything up. That was you,
you messed everything up anyway. Um, but
maybe.
I feel like for the whole show, we should just turn this way. But anyway, I like StreamYard because it makes us feel like we're like Drake and Josh or something. Um, but yeah, we're gonna because they used to do a split screen thing. But we're gonna talk a little bit about that, and then of course we're gonna talk about the unfortunate passing of Howard Finkel as well a little bit at the end of the show too. But nonetheless, to start with the releases, I think you have the full. Do you have the full list or the full list?
I got the full list.
Full list. Okay.
I got
There
the
were
I
some
got,
surprising ones in there. There were a couple of ones that I think. Well, and I think it goes back to too. Like we talk about WWE kind of misusing talent and not really using them to their potential. And I think a lot of those guys, and was there any gals on there? But I know,
yeah.
but a lot of those guys and gals, are kind of have fallen victim to that. But let's get into the list first, and then we will talk a little bit about what we think of it.
So, and this is in no particular order. This is just how I wrote them
This is in
down.
an order for from the his favorite to least favorite.
Yeah. No, that's not it. No. So, it is split up in between superstars and producers. So, anyway, so we have Rusev, which was kind of a surprise, but I think he had wanted his release anyway, and they wouldn't give it to him. So they finally, with the coronavirus, gave him his release. But anyway, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, Drake Maverick, Eric Young, EC3. EC3 can't get a break with WWE, I swear. Leo Rush, Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder, which was a surprise to me. Zack Ryder was a huge surprise to me. Heath Slater, Sarah Logan, Eric Rowan, your boy Big Red gone, your boy gone. No Way Jose, Primo and Epico. I did not even know they were still in the WWE. Um, Maria and Mike Kanellis, Deanna Perrazzo, Alexander Jaksic. I don't know who that is. Aiden English. And I'll add this one before I get into the producers. Referee Mike Chioda, who was a huge surprise. He is, I think, the longest tenured ref. He was the head of the ring crew. So that was a huge surprise to me. Then getting into like the producers and trainers and stuff, we have Kurt Angle, Billy Kidman, Fit Finley, Pat Buck, Sean Davari, Scott Armstrong, Sarah Stock, Shane Helms, Lance Storm, and Mike Rotunda. So that's a big list of people released. Unfortunately, due to the coronavirus, having to cut costs and things. But a lot of them, man, especially the producers, a lot of them were trainers too. So it's like, man, how do you, what do you got?
At least for
I,
my
I feel
coworker.
like you can stay up late for
He,
us.
he's staying up late anyway, so it ain't late to me.
We the only podcast that always answer classic. You wait up, bruh. You wait up. Anyway, um, yeah. So a big list. The rumors are already going around. You know, where are they going to end up? What are they going to do? Um, a lot of people are saying, oh, a bunch of them are going to go to AEW. I don't think that's going to be the case because in the beginning, even Scott or Cody Rhodes said they don't want AEW to just be, picking up a bunch of former WWE guys. I'm sure a few of these guys will eventually one day be in AEW, and I'm sure a bunch of them will make it back to WWE in time. But there's a lot of other promotions out there. Um, a lot of these guys, Anderson and Gallows could go back to New Japan. A lot of these guys could go to Ring of Honor. Um, uh, some of them could go to Impact. Myself, being a worker in the business, I would love to see a bunch of these guys work the indie circuit and kind of, be able to build that hunger again. Like a lot of guys who have been released from WWE, gone to the indies, come back with more of a hunger. That could be a thing. And just like to be able to get a chance to work with any of these guys would be amazing. Just to, learn from them, from their experiences in WWE. And then a lot of the like producers, I'm sure, could find work in other promotions, being producers or being trainers. Like I'm sure AEW could take some of them as trainers or producers. Impact could do the same. um, you know um, Mike Chioda, if he still wants to be a referee, I'm sure any promotion would love to have an experienced ref like him. um, so I think, yes, this sucks, obviously, but I think you got to look at the positives. The one door closes, another one opens. You just got to find where that next door is, where that next opportunity is. Um, so, DJ.
Yeah, it is a very big list. And first thing I think of when I look at this list is how many of these guys weren't really doing much of anything. It kind of like reminds you how big WWE's roster is in the first place.
Yeah.
Um, you know, there's a couple of these guys that have seen some success and kind of tapered off a little bit. Rusev is one that comes to mind, having his biggest run near the WrestleMania 30ish area. And then ever since then, it's kind of been all downhill and kind of jokey in a way from there. Um, the club is an interesting one and a little surprising because they were kind of in a pretty prominent role with AJ Styles right now, and they are one of the better tag teams, or had been one of the better tag teams in WWE. But then again, you think of them as two guys who hadn't really reached their ceiling yet. It felt like they almost put them with AJ Styles to make sure they stayed relevant in a way. Not that they're not good, but relevant to in terms of the fans because once you start losing a lot and things kind of turn for you, the fans will turn on you pretty quickly. So it felt like they put him with AJ to kind of, you know, reinvent the wheel in a way and kind of have the club back together, but also, keep them relevant, in a way as well. Drake Maverick's a little bit surprising because he's in the interim cruiserweight championship tournament, or is it a tournament or is it a match?
Tournament.
Tournament. He's in that, and I think he's still going to compete in that.
Yeah.
So that's good for him. In terms of like Eric Young, Leo Rush, Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins, Heath Slater, guys like that, even Eric Rowan, they weren't doing much with those guys. Eric Young had came up to the main roster and done a little bit. Leo Rush had done a little bit, and then he went back to NXT, I think. He did a little bit with Lashley and stuff like that, and kind of, that was entertaining. Zack Ryder hadn't done much, in a while. Kurt Hawkins hadn't really done much in a while. He was built up to do a lot when he first came back, but nothing ever really came of it. Um, Heath Slater, I don't think he's done anything since Slater Gator. Um, so a lot of these guys, No Way Jose, Primo, like you said, Primo and Epico, we didn't know they were on the roster at this point. Like it was kind of that bad. I think Maria Kanellis is pregnant. Mike Kanellis slash Bennett has been in limbo since then, and really since he came into. You know, a lot of these guys have just not really been used. Sarah Logan kinda, she was in the Riot Squad, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sarah Logan was in the Riot Squad, so that was kind of her biggest thing. But other than that, what has she really done? So and then back to EC3, just unfortunate that he really can't. He really can't catch a break in WWE. He started in WWE, went to Impact, obviously made his name in Impact, and then went to WWE with a lot of fanfare, and everybody was, I think a lot of people were really excited about it, but nothing came of it. Um, nothing came of it. He had a pretty good time in NXT, but once he hit the main roster, it was almost like a big fish in a no, small fish in a big pond, I should say. And nothing came of it. More so because I don't think he was ever given the opportunities. A lot of these guys were never really given the opportunities. We talked a whole lot during a lot of reviews about the club and how they should be tag champions, and they eventually did, but I don't even know. I don't even remember the run. That's how uneventful it was. We talked about Rusev plenty of times. You know, Rusev originally got over as this big powerhouse, can beat anybody up type of a guy, and then the Rusev Day thing started to happen, and he kind of became a joke for a little bit, but then the Rusev Day thing got him back over, I think. But then WWE is kind of weird about getting yourself over as opposed to WWE doing something to get you over, so that kind of hurts you a little bit, and I think too a little bit of obviously it has a lot to do with the virus, but I think a lot of it has to do with their standing in the company at the time. You're not just going to get rid of, you don't see AJ Styles on this list. You don't see Seth Rollins on this list. You don't see, Aleister Black on this list. You don't see even Bobby Lashley, who is kind of in limbo, I think, a little bit too. You don't see him on this list. You don't see Brock Lesnar on this list. You don't see these guys who are in prominent roles right now on this list. But like we said, I think the most prominent from this list was Carl Anderson. I don't know how many times I'm gonna say list today, but Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows were kind of the most prominent two that I think that I saw.
Yeah.
Eric Rowan was doing some stuff with the little cage thing or whatever, but I don't know if they ever went. I don't know if they ever really went with it. And then when they revealed what it was so stupid that nobody cared anymore. So man, like I don't get it because they could have used a real freaking spider. You could have just used a real spider. Why'd you have to use a big old furry, freaking fake looking spider? Like, but anyway, my boy Big Red. But like I I don't know. It's interesting. And in terms of the whole, I don't know if they'll go to AEW type thing. And once again, I think it's wrestling fans because we are so quick to criticize somebody for literally signing the best talent in the world. We are literally just bam, spot on. Not necessarily us per se, but obviously we hear all the time wrestling. Oh, AEW just gonna turn into Impact. They gonna sign everybody. So you're not supposed to sign the best talent in the world. I've never understood that. I've never. If every football team was like, dang, he played for another team, I got to go sign somebody from the XFL. Like, you wouldn't be as good as you want to be. Tom Brady may not even have a job if you felt like you couldn't sign the best players in the world. Like, it's so stupid. I still hate it. It's so dumb.
A little side note. Speaking of XFL, the XFL has officially signed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Which doesn't necessarily mean it's over, right? Like in a way, it does, but like you can file for You can file for bankruptcy and come back from it. It's just
I
hard.
know there's a couple different kinds of bankruptcy. I forgot what Chapter 11 like entails, but still, like, just the bad luck that they have with the XFL. Like, this one was actually doing really well, and a bunch of guys that were in the XFL have been signed to NFL teams. Like, they've been given the opportunity to be seen. But it's like, I don't understand why they had to file for bankruptcy.
I think their first
Peter.
mistake, and I know it's almost like a selfless mistake, but they should have probably been a little bit more selfish in it. Um, they shouldn't have paid the players after the season ended. Um, I know that may have been a contract thing, something that they may have had to do, or they kind of would have been in legal trouble that would have put them in even worse kind of blood a little bit. But I don't think they should have did that. I think they could have done something. They could have saved a whole lot of money by not paying the players after everything ended, because they still had to pay them for the whole season. And you got to remember, they're not making any money from ticket sales, merchandise, any of that stuff, because nobody's coming to the games, because you can't. You can't even have the games. So,
but at the same time, I think other leagues that are supposed to be going on right now are still paying their players.
yeah, but I think they have a little bit more of a pot to kind of pull from, though. They've been around for a little bit longer.
But I
Um,
mean,
I know WWE owns it, and technically, like, they got the pot. But in a way, it's weird though, because although Vince owns it, it's like almost not connected with WWE at all. You never really hear much about it. Um, and even when you hear about the funding, we didn't hear about the funding coming from WWE. We heard about the funding coming from whatever owner that was that funded it.
Yeah.
Originally, is what we were hearing. So was it the Jaguars owner or something like that? But whatever. Something like
No,
that.
Jaguars owner was AEW.
Yeah, but it was some sort of owner that had funded
Yeah.
it. I just can't remember right off the top of my head what it was, but it's weird because in a way, even though it's kind of a WWE subsidy almost, it's still like it's like they're not connected. It's not like it's almost like they couldn't. I hate it though. Like, I really hate it. Because it was good to have football kind of all year round in a way.
Yeah.
Because really, as soon as the XFL would have ended, the CFL would have came on, and then kind of midway or like 4 or 5 weeks into the CFL, then you have the NFL, which is good because that kind of lull period between the end of the NBA playoffs and the start of NFL football is kind of a long period of time. I think for a lot of sports fans.
Yeah. I'm trying to look up Chapter 11 bankruptcy to kind of get.
While you're looking that up, I am, because I didn't talk about their announcers, producers, referees, and whatnot. Some of the bigger names I'm a little bit surprised about, but I wonder what all of these producers do too. Like how I mean, I think a lot of them are like almost like writers in a way. They probably do a lot of the pushing ideas for storylines and stuff like that. Especially when you look at it with Kurt Angle being one of them, Billy Kidman being one of them, Mike Rotunda, who I think is Bray Wyatt's dad, right? Brand
Bo.
Where is Bo, by the way? Surprised he wasn't on this.
No.
Just because we haven't really seen him in a while. With Davari, Scott Armstrong, Shane Helms, Lance Storm, guys like that who have been in the business for so long. I mean, and they go back and forth anyway, so I don't think it's that that big of a deal. But it was interesting. You showed me the video of Rockstar Spud, and his kind of emotions over it, and how kind of upset he was, and probably a little frustrated that he was. Um, but it's interesting how it affects people, even when us as fans don't really see him that much. When's the last time we can feel like we've seen Rockstar Spud or
Yeah.
Drake Maverick? And
Well,
it feels like, even though we haven't seen him, it's interesting, how much it still affects people, even though we may not see them on TV week to week.
and Heath Slater posted a video on his Instagram as well. I don't know if you saw that one, but his was, his was a lot different. He was like, it's unfortunate that it happened, and he said, but WWE has given him and his family so much, has given them income. WWE has given them so many opportunities. He said he's been literally all over the world, and he kind of went on to say that, yeah, this sucks, but there's a bigger picture to this. This is happening to people all over the world. It's not just WWE superstars who are losing their jobs. It is people all over the country, and other countries too, losing their jobs, losing their livelihoods. So it's like, yeah, it's bad, but you got to kind of look at the bigger picture, which I like that he kind of went on that. Not that I'm taking anything away from what Spud said, because obviously, you know, it's his dream to work for WWE, so it's emotional. I'm sure he'll bounce back, and he'll still work the indies and stuff, and he'll find work still, because he's an immensely talented performer, both in ring and on the mic. So definitely, yeah, I'm sure a lot of these guys. And as for the producers, I know Billy Kidman was like a backstage producer, like helping run the show and stuff like that. Um, I'm trying to look and see if I can remember who was what. I know Sarah Stock was a producer, and she was also a one of the women trainers for the women, because she is a former wrestler. A lot of these guys are former wrestlers. Um, uh, Lance Storm, I think he was also a trainer in WWE. So I mean, like I said, a lot of these guys, I'm sure, will find work easily in other promotions, and elsewhere. Um, but as for found a little something about Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So Chapter 11 Chapter 11 is a chapter of the United States Bankruptcy Code, which permits reorganization under the bankruptcy laws of the United States. Chapter 11 bankruptcy is available to every business, whether organized as a corporation or a sole proprietorship, and to individuals, although it is most prominently used by corporate entities. So, um, doesn't necessarily mean it's over. It just kind of helps them kind of reorganize, I guess. So hopefully that means it's not totally over, but because I definitely, I think they were doing something really good. It was working out really well. People were getting into it. People were watching it. Um, Cities that didn't have football teams now had football teams. Like, you had more of an opportunity to go have your own like home team, I guess you could say. But anything else before we move on to the unfortunate?
I don't think so. I think we said all we needed to say.
I
And
mean, the other unfortunate, I should say. Everything on this episode is unfortunate.
it's a sad episode.
So we found out today, well, yesterday now, because it's after midnight, that unfortunately the Fink, Howard Finkel, has passed away. I just happened to have seen it on Facebook. as I was scrolling through. I didn't really get to read and see exactly what happened. I know he was. I think they said he was like 67 or something like that.
69.
Um,
Yeah.
oh, 69, which isn't really that old in today's day and age. But again, um, but definitely it's really sad. Um, to me, he's the best to ever be a ring announcer. I mean, when I think of classic moments in WWE, especially ring announcing wise, I think of Howard Finkel. Like, I think of him, and I think of Mean Gene doing backstage interviews. Like, those are the two
Yep.
that are pinnacles in pro wrestling. Um, so it's unfortunate. It's a very sad day. So, any thoughts on?
Yeah, I think so too. It was interesting because him and especially with him and Mean Gene both passing. It's interesting because they both kind of define their eras in their own little ways. Howard Finkel has this almost like unforgettable voice for ring announcing. And I don't know if it's ever really been the same. Since I mean Lillian was good. Lillian's always one that's missed because she isn't there. Because she was always really good too. But I think Howard Finkel just defined, um, that 80s and 90s era. With him and Mean Gene. They were so kind of it was Mean Gene and backstage and then back to Fink in the ring. So you just had a sack show at that point. And when I think of both of them and Piper too, you think of I for some reason think of Legends House because that was the most recent thing I watched with I think both of them in it was and Roddy Piper too. With all of them in it was Legends House, and I that was like one of the first things I watched on the network when I started watching the network was Legends House, and it was hilarious. And how Finkel was out of his mind, I think at that point he was wild. He was wild. Yeah, but it was funny though, and I think they define their own eras and define them together. And I don't know if we'll ever get a backstage. I don't. It feels like I don't know if we've had a backstage personality like Mean Gene, and like you said before, I don't think we've had a backstage
No.
ring announcer like Howard Finkel. And then you put that combination together, we haven't had anywhere near that combination since. And I
Yeah.
think we're really starting to miss some of our old friends, in terms of some of these, especially with all the different commentary teams and stuff like that. I think we're really starting to miss, the Gorilla Monsoon and the those announcing teams. We're starting to really miss those teams because you know it just was different. It was different. Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler. We started to miss those teams because it was just they were built for their era, and I guess the teams now were. But I guess the weird part is back then the announced teams didn't change as much.
Yeah.
Now with the brand split and so much going on, with WWE in general, there's so many announced teams that I don't know if we ever get a chance. I mean, besides Michael Cole, I don't know if we ever get a chance to get used to commentator anymore because we just hear the same one. I mean, we hear different ones all the time. I mean, NXT's a little bit more helpful because Morrow's been there for a while now. So we kind of, it's nice to have kind of the voice of blase, blase, blase. I think it helps a little bit, and it kind of defines. It really defines the show.
Yeah.
Howard Finkel and Mean Gene, they defined, you know, their shows because they were the only ones doing it, and there was nobody that could do it like they could do it. So
Yeah. I kind of miss that kind of stability, like being, having that, you knew who was gonna be ring announcing every night. And I feel like ring announcers, to the point of view, I think they haven't changed as much. I mean, obviously, we had Lillian for a long time. We had JoJo for a while. Um, Now we have. Is it still? It's still Mike, Micro, right?
I
Or
think so. Yeah.
yeah. And he's good. I like him.
The best in the world. That's the only thing I can think of, but I think
Yeah, but I what
don't
I
it
don't
kill the
like
man.
what I don't like now is like you said, the announce teams changed so much. And back in the day, you had, Gorilla Monsoon and Vince McMahon for so long, and then, you had Macho Man in there for a while, for so long. And then during the Attitude Era, you had JR and King. It was a stable thing. And then, like you said, the brand split happened, and even when when Taz was added, it was kind of changed a little bit, but it just changes so much now, and I can't even tell you who the backstage and that ring interviewers are anymore, because I feel like they change so often.
Mm-hmm.
I'll turn on Raw, and I don't watch Raw and SmackDown regularly anymore, just because I don't have a lot of time to. I mean, I've had more time during the coronavirus outbreak, but I still have it. But I'll go on there and I'll see a backstage interview, and I'm like, who is that interviewing them? Like, who is this person? Um, and I mean, to an extent, it's not that big of a deal, because as in the business wise, as an interviewer, as a referee, even to an extent as a manager, you're not really as a manager. Yeah, you're the talking piece, you're the mouthpiece. But as for managers otherwise, and referees, and interviewers, you're not the focal point. The superstar is the focal point. The wrestler is the focal point. So to that point, it's not that big of a deal. But you do get used to
Unless
seeing
you're Earl
the.
Hebner, unless you're Earl Hebner, you know. Um,
I mean, Earl Hebner himself is a superstar. Like, uh,
do you wonder? And I know this is a little off topic, but would Earl Hebner have been the superstar that he is without the Montreal Screwjob? As much as he didn't want to do it, as much as he didn't want to do it, that moment defines him. And he even has a shirt that said "I screwed better." What does his shirt say? I didn't screw better. I can't remember. He has a shirt though.
no, he has a. I actually have it somewhere. It says, "Damn right I did."
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I don't know, but I mean, he's such a huge star now. I don't know any wrestler in the business that wouldn't put him over. If like I don't know, but like I said, I do miss that kind of stability, and that familiarity of who's gonna be on the show every week. Now it's you know who's the interview going to be tonight, or who's going to be ring announcing, who's going to be doing this, that, whatever. um but you know it is what it is. Life goes on. And but anyway, back to kind of the, I guess, to finish up the show, because I don't think we have much more to really say. um it is unfortunate that a lot of these people did get released. Obviously it wasn't fully, I don't think it was fully WWE's decision. I think they were kind of forced, their hand was a little bit forced, just with the whole virus going around. Because even with a multi-billion dollar company, they do have to be getting hit, a little bit more than usual, just with not having shows. I mean, yes, they still have the network that people are still, subscribed to. They still have WWE shops, so you can still buy shirts and stuff. But their major thing was shows, and getting people in the door. So obviously there had to be cuts, and unfortunately, a lot of these guys, like I said, I'm sure if they are hungry enough and they work hard enough, they'll be back. We've seen a bunch of guys get released and come back. You know, um, the current WWE champion, uh, you know, same with him. Uh, and I'm trying to think of some of the other guys that have been released and come back. Obviously, he's not a superstar right now or not a current active wrestler, but I mean, Christian left and came back. You know, so many guys have been released or left the company and come back. So I don't think for a lot of these guys this is the end of the road. It certainly isn't the end of the road in the business in general. So um, I'll throw it back to DJ because he got the control to end the show. I tried to rhyme that, it didn't work.
I think that's gonna do it for this one. We'll come back with something else probably sometime next week, unless something just pops up this week and we're like, whoa, gotta talk.
The way it's been going, it will. Something will pop up.
I did watch the Edge documentary. We'll do that video soon. I did watch it. I finally watched it. I actually stayed up to watch it one day last week when I wasn't as busy. I stayed up, or when I didn't have to get up early the next morning. I stayed up to watch it.
So we gonna do that on that there Tammer there.
We might do it on the Tammer, but nonetheless, we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at ICW_podcast and subscribe to the channel as well. For Casey and DJ, which is me and him or him. We'll see you guys on the next video when you guys tune in.
Blibbly dibbly, oh yeah.